Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. Sleep deprivation, sorry. Before we start, let's do some astrology. I was really happy with how the championship fights went this past weekend, especially the Sean O'Malley fight, which I correctly predicted. The only thing that you could maybe say I was wrong about is I was really saying, like, well, Neptune's right on the ascend, or right on the cusp of O'Malley's first house. So I was thinking that means there should be some controversy, but I didn't know what it was. I was thinking maybe it's a controversial split decision. It was a not controversial unanimous decision. However, it seems from what I didn't see the fight, but it sounds like Merab decisively won all 5 rounds, and 2 of the judges gave O'Malley 2 of them. So there was some controversy over the judging. Plus, there's the fact that Merab is obviously drugged out of his mind. Now, I'm sure they're all on something. I'm sure O'Malley's on something too. But Merab, to go 5 rounds and not even be breathing heavy, this guy's cardio is just in another world. There's something seriously wrong there. So that, I think that's probably what the controversy is. But otherwise, I said, the chart, clearly, unmistakably shows that Merab wins the title, and he did. So I was really happy about that. There were 3 other championship fights last weekend, world title fights, world title defense fights, and I was right about all of those. None of them were particularly interesting though, and so this seems to be those are, as I've discussed before, those are easier to do. But anyway, so just for this week, we've got tomorrow. I've got the in English Premier League soccer, I have Tottenham beating some scrub team that they're playing in the English League Cup. Then on Thursday, I have whoever the underdog is in the Thursday night football game. Whoever's playing the Jets. So the other team, the team that's, I forget who that is, but I have the Jets to lose on Thursday. And then I had the Eagles to win on Sunday, and I don't think I did the Monday night game yet, so you will see. But anyway, the one, though, that I'm most interested in is Anthony Joshua fighting to reclaim a portion of the heavyweight title on Saturday night, and I have Joshua losing that. That would be a really big upset, so we'll see. If that prediction comes true, then I may do a vid analyzing the chart and explaining why I made that prediction. Because this chart is, of all, I've done 5 world title fight defenses total. I've hit on all of them, but this is the most vaguest chart that I've seen. Or not, I don't even know if vague is the right word, because I feel like it is decisive, but it's possible I'm misinterpreting it, and the chart just could be wrong. Anyway, but now what you guys all came for, the Casey stuff. This isn't the most original stuff. This may be Casey's strongest video. It's at least up there. I've always said that with the red pill, and to a lesser extent the black pill, the best advice they give isn't about stuff you should do. It's about telling you what not to do. And in that case, the red pill does have some good advice. So Casey's got these 10 things. Some of them are okay. Let's see where we are. So the first thing he says, no initiating any public displays of affection. He says it's okay if she goes to hold your hand or goes in for a kiss. Then you can reciprocate, but you don't do it without her leading. I think that's good advice. Now, of all these things, there are exceptions, and then, especially with Casey or somebody like Casey, they're likely to take it to a spurgy extent. But the just base advice, if you boil it down, I think is good. And the story Casey gives is, he said, I'll be in the gym, and I'll see a guy working out with his girlfriend or something, and he'll lean over for a kiss or something, and he's got this big, goofy smile on, and he kisses her, and she'll kiss him back, but I can tell from the look in her face that she's just just the dissatisfaction there. Like she's just not happy with this. And this is, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've seen it with guys like this who are like all like mushy with their PDUA, like with around like their girlfriend or wives who are like, oh, Jesus Christ, this guy, you know? And, so, I mean, you don't want to read too much into it. You don't want to take it too far, but I do know what Casey is talking about. And I do think it's good advice to not push too hard on that stuff. If you're going to use it sparingly. I mean, maybe a little bit, but you know, not too much. So I think that's good advice. Now and then he says, never tell her how much money you make. And I would disagree with the word never. I think in the dating stage, don't tell her. And what Casey says is the reason you don't say it is because it looks like you're trying to lead with your wallet, makes you look inadequate, and it's going to just turn her off. And I'm not sure I think it's more that she won't care. I mean, if it's going to turn her off, it's only because it's so tacky. I don't think it's necessarily, it's just pathetic, you know, to try to like flash your money around and show how much you make. It's just, you're not going to impress anybody, let alone a potential romantic partner. You know, it's just like doing it is just like, you know, like stop. I mean, I think that, I mean, if Casey wants to say like on the subconscious level, it's because she's thinking that you're not enough and that's why you have to say it. I mean, maybe. I think it's more just that it's tacky. I don't think that it's anything beyond that. But anyway, regardless of the reason, I think that's a good reason. Now, the ever thing is where I kind of draw the line. If this is somebody who you're married to or you're going to be with her long term and you're going to have joint finances, I think it's okay. And I don't know, like, you know, it's like a lot of these things, like, I don't know which stage of the relationship he's talking about. You know, with Casey, unfortunately, he seems to kind of always be talking about the entire relationship. Like how you treat a girl when you're courting her is the same way you treat her throughout the entire relationship, or else hypergamy kicks in and she's going to leave you. So that I would disagree with. But for the first part, it's okay. I'm assuming that Casey's viewers are mostly at the beginner stage of a relationship. No excessive or initiated compliments of her beauty. And here again, this is the one thing that I think like a lot of women would be like, nah, that's fucked up. Well, you know, I want my boyfriend or husband to compliment my looks. It's like, yeah, I believe you, but not necessarily in the way that it often happens. Like, again, I'm thinking back to girls I've seen, like, whose boyfriends are like, oh, you're so hot, babe, you're beautiful. And they're like rolling their eyes because it's just like, at some point it gets to be a little too much. Like a sincere compliment done, you know, sparingly is one thing. And then Casey says, now if she asks you, like, how do I look? Then you can say, oh, you look great. So he's not saying you can't ever say anything good about her looks. He's just saying you can't initiate it. I think you can initiate it sometimes, but maybe you don't want to go crazy about it. It shouldn't be all the time and it shouldn't be over the top, which is, I think, what Casey's trying to say. Again, with him, you don't know. But no, one of those guys, you don't want to be one of those guys who's like, oh my God, you're so gorgeous. How did I get you? I'm so lucky. Like that kind of stuff I mean, look, there's going to be some women who like it. Most of that's going to get old, you know, and it's going to get old pretty fast. And then the black pill rejoinder might be like, oh, well, she'd like it from Chad. She'd like it from Chad at first. Again, it would get old. It would get old. I would say stay away from that. And then, you know, it's Casey, so he's going to get kind of weird as it goes on. Don't talk to her a lot about her life, like about her day, you know, to like minimize the amount of time talking about her day. Instead, make everything about you. Just focus on you. And what he's saying is that because hypergamy means that she has to think that you're more interesting than she is. This is probably pretty bad advice for a long-term relationship. I think that he's on to something in the early stages. But in the long run, a relationship's going to be kind of give and take. And, you know, you see, now I agree that there's probably no point in the relationship where you should be talking to her about stuff that she's supposed to talk to her girlfriends about, but especially at first. So here we've got like, it's like some kind of good advice and then some kind of bad, but it's bad because you're taking it to this, or Casey's taking it to this spurgy extreme. Yeah, in the courtship stage, you shouldn't be talking. I mean, there's just certain things you shouldn't be talking to her about. Like, if she's somebody you're interested in, you shouldn't be talking about to her about her relationship issues. And you don't need to, I mean, I don't know. It's like, for me, I don't really like to talk about my own days and stuff because I kind of already know what happened. I know what happened. I know what's going on. There are times where, I maybe want to talk about myself, but for the most part, it's not something that, I mean, for me, if I want to talk about myself, I go online and do it. So I would rather, it's tough for me to compare. But like, I wouldn't want to talk to, like, I don't really like to talk directly to another person about it. And definitely not a girl I'm interested in. But that's just me. But it's like, and whereas I kind of like, I mean, not so much these days, but I kind of like talking to people about their life, or at least I used to. Yeah, I mean, I know what Casey's saying here, and it's probably good advice for the first part of the relationship, as long as you're not a spurg about it. But I also don't know. I mean, I would say maybe keep this one in mind, but be like careful about it. You don't want to be like some totally emotionally distant spurg that's going to be, that can cause problems. And as for making everything about you, I would actually maybe even say kind of the opposite. That, I would say, if anything, you'd want like a little, like some mystery. Just because you guys are together doesn't mean that she has to be included in every single aspect of your life, nor you with every aspect of hers. You're maybe you're one item, but you're still separate people. So I think having some distance, like, I don't think you need to like tell her every little thing that happened at the office or at school or whatever that day. And nor does she need to do the same she need to do the same to you. I think that it actually could be counterproductive if you're talking about yourself too much. Let there be some mystery there. Then he had one that I really liked. He said, don't make small talk, and don't try to keep the conversation going when it's something you're not interested in, just for keeping the conversation going. He said, basically, if you don't have anything to say, you can't, like, on the subject, you're bored of it, just let the conversation die. Just accept the silence, deal with the silence. I don't think he used the term, but embrace the silence. And I've actually given similar advice before. I think that this is good advice because, not because there's anything wrong with trying to keep the conversation going, but it's that if it gets to that point where you have to keep the conversation going, it means that she's lost interest anyway. So the thing is, there's nothing you can say at that point. If she's feeling it, she'll find stuff to bring up. She'll find stuff to talk about. Because you'll see those things sometimes, like, would be like, just never run out of things to say. Well, you're not supposed to never run out of things to say. You're talking, people don't fill every second, with words or conversation. Sometimes there's nothing left to say, and, you just let the conversation die in that sense. I don't think artificially trying to extend the conversation is going to work, even if it's something like you really want to keep talking to her. But if you don't have anything to say, then it's just not going to happen anyway. It's not going to work, and that's that. Then he says, don't ever let her lead you into like a bad decision. I think he might have said bad financial decision. So, like, don't let her influence you to pay for a trip that you shouldn't be doing, or buy her something that you shouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably good advice. That's probably good financial advice. Yes, I would advise making bad financial decisions. But beyond that, I don't think it's really a big deal. Yeah, I mean, maybe, because who knows? Like, I mean, what Casey stresses in this video is this stuff's all subconscious. So, like, it may seem like it shouldn't have an impact, but that doesn't mean it doesn't, because, on the subconscious level, it might. Maybe. I mean, again, don't make bad financial decisions. I don't know if that's really gonna doom a relationship or doom your chances, though. Um, Never tell her that you want a relationship. This one I am gonna have to disagree with. I think, again, from like the Casey angle and like the early part of the relationship, few months, whole like satisfying hypergamy thing. I think it's okay at first. The problem with this is, what if it's in the long term and you do want a relationship? Because I can think of at least one guy I know who, the woman he's married to now, and they've got 3 kids and have been married for like well over 30 years at this point, he was pretty aggressive in pursuing her. And, after he said, like, pretty much knew he wanted to marry her after the first time he met her, after his first time he spoke with her. And then he wasn't able to get in touch with her for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And he was, I don't know if broken up's the right word, but he was like, I really thought we had a connection. And, I was like, I can't remember the story of why he wasn't able to get in touch with her, but he really did aggressively pursue her. And if he had just, given up and assumed that she hadn't been interested, because it wasn't that she wasn't interested, it was for something else. I don't know. I heard the story like 12 years ago. So, it might have been more like 12, 13, 14 years ago. So I don't know, but if he had given up, then that marriage and those kids would never have happened. So, like, I know where Casey's coming from, but yeah, I don't know. So what Casey says then, he said, like, basically for the first 4 or 5 dates before you guys are official or whatever, you just have to accept that at the end of every date, that may be the last time you ever see her. She may not call or text again, and that may be that. Yeah, look, I mean, yes, I think there's something to it, but again, it kind of depends on what your goals are. Like, are your goals to get married? Like, what if she's the one? What if you think she's the one? Then, yeah, don't get me wrong, don't simp, don't go overboard, but you want to know you at least gave it a shot, right? And pursued it, so this advice could potentially be really harmful depending on what it is you're looking for. And I know I already gave that earlier example about my, he was actually my calculus tutor. That's how I knew him. And he was a total Chad, by the way. He was about 6 feet tall, like 230 pounds of solid muscle. I think he bench pressed over 400 pounds. Really handsome. And then obviously, like a 155 IQ. He was a physicist. Then never tell a woman that you've been broken up with or heartbroken. That's just stupid. That's just retarded. He says that if you say that, then she's going to think like, well, if this other girl dumped him, then maybe I should dump him too. Or like, if he wasn't good enough for her, why is he good enough for me? With some women at the early part of the relationship, maybe, but no. No. I mean, maybe if it's something like she dumped me because I was too short, or she dumped me because I was too ugly or too broke, like some like real like flaw or weakness in you. But if it's just something like, well, the relationship didn't work out, the relationship faded out or something, no, I don't. You can tell her that, and it's okay. And then he says, never admit any insecurities. You should always act like you're the man, that you have no self-doubt whatsoever, and that you think you're all that, and that you're somebody, that you're like this rock that she can depend on and look up to. Again, for the early part of the relationship, I wouldn't even think it would be an effective tactic then, because if you're faking it, it's not going to work. If you really are just that much of an arrogant jackass like The Rock, then yeah, lean into it, and that's going to be really helpful in the early part of the relationship. But over the long term, if you can't be vulnerable, kind of what's the point of even having a long-term relationship? Like, again, for a short-term relationship, sure. But if it's going to be long-term, and you're not going to be able to be vulnerable with her, what's even the point anyway? And no, you do, if you guys want to be close, then yeah, you are going to have to be vulnerable and admit insecurities. You have to be, it's got to be the one person that you're the most honest with. And look, if you don't want that, it's fine. It's fine if you don't want that. But if it is what you want, and I think it is what most of Casey's, fans or viewers want, then this is really bad advice. Again, maybe go easy on the early stuff. Don't overdo it. And there's certainly got to be some balance. And yeah, if you've got to err on the side of being more stoic. Real stoic, not Casey stoic. But no, that's not a healthy long-term relationship. And never say I love you unless she says it first. Again, maybe in the early part of the relationship, it's okay. After you guys have been together for a while and the relationship's been established, do it. In case he actually says, and really never say it if you actually are in love with her, because that's going to really turn her off. I think, again, he's replaying the last part with Brittany. And, the truth is I've thought more about it, and we really don't know if, if Casey's whole, at some stage in the relationship, Casey relaxed. He was very in love with her. He relaxed. And was his relaxing and giving up his, his masculine frame, did that trigger Brittany's hypergamy and cause her to look elsewhere? Or was it other stuff? I think that she would have left anyway. I don't think we can dismiss. Hypergamy is a real thing. I don't think we can just dismiss that Casey's theory, though, that it was because he had dropped all the masculinity bullshit. To me, it would have ended just for a different reason. I think that maybe it's I'm not sure exactly what happened, but maybe at first, maybe she had eventually come to him with an ultimatum and been you've got to drop this masculinity bullshit or I'm leaving. And he didn't hold frame because he didn't want to lose her. So he did it, and then maybe it was good at first, and then after that, the frame that bullshit frame may not have been healthy, but it's possible. I'm not saying because I don't know. It's possible that bullshit frame was keeping her hooked, and that once he didn't have that anymore, the scales fell from her eyes, and she could see the real Casey for the first time, and she was like, "Oh, this guy's a total loser," and I think that's a possibility too. So I think that, there's maybe a kernel of truth in all of this. Casey, and maybe it would have failed anyway, but Casey, to maintain that relationship with Brittany, it is the case that the only way he could have done so would have been holding frame for the whole relationship. Maybe that was the only way. What I'm saying though is that isn't a healthy relationship. Better to get dumped and heartbroken or lose the relationship than live a whole lifetime in a relationship like that. That's my opinion. Casey may see it differently. But I mean, I think it's because, you don't want to go all blue-pilled. But it's truth is at some point, it's if that's what you need to maintain the relationship, then the relationship isn't worth it. I mean, I know to some extent you can say, well, it's worth it for you. It's well, if it's worth it for you, that means there's something wrong with you because that isn't a healthy relationship, So no, I don't know. So can you tell your girlfriend or wife you love her without her saying it first? Yes. Should you do it constantly all the time? No, please don't do that. That's we've all seen this shit, or I mean, maybe you guys are younger so you don't do it, but like us older guys who have Facebook and stuff, we will see stuff guys 1 day away, I've been on the road for 1 day, already missing the girl, something like that, or missing this world. And it's dude, shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear that shit. It's so cringe. And no, your girlfriend doesn't appreciate that. She's dude, how did I get stuck with this chump? No, again, maybe now or then you can do stuff like that, but just use, you can't say use your head because some people are just too retarded. But again, absolutely, if you're going to err on the side of saying that kind of shit less often. But I don't think you have to, Casey's advice, just never say I love you unless she says it first, or never really show your affection unless she has first. you know, that kind of depends on the person and depends on the, it might be okay for you depending on your personality. It might be okay for the relationship depending on her personality, but every person's different. Every relationship's different. It's not good blanket advice, even if I see where he's coming from. That's all for now. See you in the next.